What's going on, everybody? So today we are here for a gargantuan, Herculean task. Okay, we are here to rewrite the story and character of Leo Wyatt, and just buckle up because it's gonna be a ride. Okay, let's just play the intro and get into the video.
It's the power of G. What we doing, come and see. Making bold comments on movies and on TV. Everything magic, ironic, cause he the one. Go subscribe, cause it's easier to show you what's going on. It's the power of G.
Y'all, I'm so sorry, first and foremost, for this. I cannot figure out another way to get this microphone to look whatever. So you're just going to put up with it. Listen, for my trials that we are about to have to go through, please remember to like the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel. And please leave a comment. My God, today, I'm going through some emotional strife here. So I need the encouragement. So this video actually came from a poll I did on Patreon. I asked my patrons which rewrite video we should do. Should we? And of course, they voted for Leo. So, here we are. So let me give you a little disclaimer because I just want to be 100% honest with you. Leo is not one of my favorite characters. And he's not one of my favorite characters because I feel like the writing for him is so haphazard. I feel like sometimes Leo gaslights. I feel like sometimes Leo lies. But then there are times where he's right about things, but I just can't get behind him because of the way that he acts. And, I made the joke about him leaving Piper earlier, but he does. And it's this thing that's caused this, I feel like, rift almost when you talk about him, where it's like, well, he was doing it for the greater good, but then a lot of his story, especially leaving Piper with this young child, I feel like is an example of why witches and white lighters actually should not be together. But because people love Leo and Piper together, we just kind of look over and be like, oh no, he did it for the greater good. When in reality, this is why they shouldn't be together. So if at any point I start to sort of sound biased, that's why. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the video. Listen, I feel like I don't really need to talk about who Leo is because we all kind of know him. But just in case you don't, maybe this is your first time kind of like venturing into the world of Charmed, or maybe you just need a quick little refresher. Leo Wyatt is the white lighter turned husband of Piper Halliwell. So he's actually all three Charmed ones white lighter, but he ends up falling in love with Piper and the chaos ensues. So white lighters and witches are not supposed to be together, which makes their love forbidden. So initially Leo is taken away. He's kind of like, they tell him, you need to go. But then he comes back to look for the Charmed One's help in fighting a dark lighter who is trying to take out one of his people that he was assigned to. And from there, Piper realizes she loves Lily. I call that man Lily, and I'm sorry. And then in season 2, we focus on a love triangle between Leo and Piper and Dan. And eventually Leo wins out. And him and Piper go on to have children. He goes on to leave Piper several times. It's a fun time for all, I'm sure, for all involved. So there's also another thing that I'm going to try to avoid doing. Me personally, I think that the Charmed Ones should have had a female white lighter. So I would actually just change the character completely to a woman. But for the sake of this video and for the sake of not changing up like too much, like the whole trajectory, then I'm just going to leave it at, their white lighter being a man. Another thing that we have talked about over at the Power G is that Mark, the ghost from season 1, should have become their white lighter, which I'm going to kind of take elements of what I would do with Mark or things that I would do, and then things that we've talked about as well. And I'm going to incorporate that kind of into Leo's story because I feel like that's going to kind of help round it out a little bit more and make things make a little bit more sense. I do also want to say that I think it's a little bit more important for me to split this video up into 2 parts. I don't know if I'm going to do 2 completely different videos or if I'm just going to do 2 different sections, because I think that Leo has a trajectory in seasons 1 through 4 that's different from 5 through 8. Like 5 through 8 Leo is going through a completely different story than 1 through 4. So I'm going to kind of focus on those specific eras in his life, or at least his life with the Charmed Ones. Y'all, this is future me. I call him Mark several times during this video, and I am so sorry. Like it was not my intention, and I'm so sorry. So one of the first things that I would do with Leo that we've kind of talked about with Mark, I would make Leo a new white lighter. And I know that you're thinking like, well, why would you make him a new white lighter? Because the Charmed Ones would need an experienced one. The Charmed Ones would need someone who's, got a lot of magical knowledge. And I do agree with that, but I also think, and now I do think that having a new white lighter would make more sense for like a new witch who was not a charmed one, right? Because we literally need someone who's gonna know what they're doing. The problem here is that with Leo, while Leo does have a lot of magical expertise and a lot of magical knowledge, sort of in the first season, he doesn't play that role for them. So when Leo comes in, he is under the guise of a handyman and he's just sort of around. So he doesn't actually lead nor guide them. He doesn't start doing that until season 2, when I feel like they kind of fleshed out the role of a white lighter a little bit more and they figured out what they wanted a white lighter to be. So for me, if I had to go back and rewrite this story, if someone gave me carte blanche, I would start in season 1 and have him just be a completely new white lighter. And I would do that mostly so we could kind of learn the rules of what white lighters do along with Mark. And it would make more Mark. Oh my God. Along with Leo. I would do that because we can learn with Leo what white lighters do, but then we can also learn through the sisters how how they need him to engage with him. And I think that would make a little bit more sense because in season 1, what we end up having is this man who's been a white lighter for like 70 years, but he's not actually helping them do, not 70. He was 70 years old. He had only been a white lighter for like 50. I had to catch myself. Because I just got the timeline a little messed up. Sorry about that. But what we end up with is this person who has like 50 years of magical knowledge, but he's not really providing that magical knowledge to them. And they're literally still having to figure things out completely of their own accord. They're still having to go to the Book of Shadows. They're still having to, talk to other witches. They're still having to do these things that like, it doesn't kind of make sense for them to have to do if they have a white lighter. In season 1, my girls are still going to the hospital. So it would make sense if Leo was a new white lighter, that maybe that's why he hadn't quite learned how to heal yet. Maybe that's why he hasn't quite gained this magical knowledge and he still has to go to the elders a lot. And that could establish that white lighters have to check in with the elders because they need to be able to, find their resources and pull them. And I think this would also kind of contribute to Piper and Leo's love story, because if Leo was a new white lighter, that would mean that he was a lot closer to his humanity than he was to being a white lighter. Because having someone who's been a white lighter for 50 years fall in love with the charge when they know that they're not supposed to, is kind of like, oh, okay. Versus having a new white lighter who still doesn't really know the rules, but he knows that he's heavily attracted to Piper. Like, you could even have Leo still doing things like trying to go check on his friends. He wants to call them. He wants to talk to them. You could do kind of like that to have him still be connected to the human world enough to where he misses it. And it makes sense why he's clinging to Piper as well. You could have him say like, I wish I had met you 6 months ago. You see what I mean? So like if he had met her when he was alive, and you can have that what if scenario of like, what would have happened if he was alive? Mm. But there's another big thing that him being a new white lighter would address as far as the show goes. So in the show, they tell us that Leo was assigned to the Charmed Ones essentially since they were born. And so he's been watching Piper since she was a baby. Now, I know there's been a lot of debate on whether he watched her entire life, whether he clocked in and clocked out. We don't fully know that because they never go into that. But it's horrifying. It is horrifying, the thought that he watched Piper as a baby and is now in a relationship with her as an adult. So I think having him as a new white lighter will also kind of take that element of it away, where you can say, okay, He is still fresh. He is literally Piper's age. That is why they're falling in love. They have so much to relate to because I'm sorry. But you know what? We're not even gonna get into that debate today. I'm just gonna be quiet. And I think that in having him be a newer white lighter and still have that connection to his humanity, I think, especially for somebody like Piper who wants that normal life, I think it would make a lot more sense for her to fall in love with him because she can see what he's going through. She can see the experience. She can see that he wants to be normal so bad and he wants to go back to that. And so the two of them can kind of bond over wanting that normal life that they're never going to be able to have. You see where I'm going? You see where I'm going with that? Do you see how you can set up the pieces to have them do X, Y, and Z? Mm-hmm. Now, another thing that I would do is instead of having Phoebe be the one to catch Leo, be magical in the beginning. Okay, let me double back because I also want to say this. I would have Mark try to kind of have a cover, but then it gets blown very quickly. Like I wouldn't have him just be there for weeks, months, whatever, and then he's for whatever reason one day decides let me use magic in the house. I would have him be there, try his hardest to stay undercover, and they're kind of looking like, what? Like, what are you? But he not even really know how to like get in the house necessarily. So think kind of like the ice cream man. Remember when the new guy was trying to get to Piper and he was trying to like get her to help him, but he didn't quite know how to say it, and so she thought he was a creep. I would do something like that, where Leo, where Leo is not 100% sure how to get in with them, how to do anything with them. And he's kind of fumbling and he's kind of trying to like, but then one day he decides, okay, let me be a handyman, right? And so he goes in there, he doesn't really know how to fix anything. That's another thing. I would have him not be able to fix anything. Like he literally is incompetent just about. So then I would have him just say, okay, I'm just gonna use magic and whatever happens, happens. And he uses it out of frustration real quick and Piper catches him. Now, I would have Piper catch him instead of Phoebe because I would have that be their bonding moment and let Piper kind of keep that secret for a while because like Mark doesn't know how to tell them. So he's still, and Piper's thinking like, well, I can just help you. I can help you to tell my sisters. And he says, no, I can't do that because I still need to like, I'm still trying to figure this all out myself. So they're kind of like sneaking around in multiple ways. So while the attraction is growing, it's also her getting more and more frustrated that he's not telling her sisters the truth and he's turning her into a liar. Now, I wouldn't keep that going the whole season. This would not be like a season long arc. This would not be a 2 season long arc. This will be a couple of episodes. And then eventually we tell the sisters, and like by the middle of season 1, they would have a white lighter, a fully functioning white lighter. And it would be a growing experience because one of the things that I think was a good thing about season 1 of Charmed was the fact that we got to grow with them. So we got those moments with them where they had to learn about what magic was. They had to learn about the demons. They had to figure out how to do this. They had like I think that was one of my favorite parts of season 1. But it's a weird situation to have someone who is literally supposed to be guiding them that's just not, and it wasn't like there was necessarily reason. There wasn't like he just wasn't guiding them. And I think it would make a lot more sense if you're going to have that person be there, then they don't fully know what their role is yet, and so they're still figuring it out. That to me would make a lot more sense, and it would make the story feel more robust and rounded out because at the same time that we're kind of learning about the demons from the Book of Shadows, we're also learning more about what the heavens are, who's in charge of the white lighters. Well, why is it that witches and white lighters aren't supposed to be together? Because that's another big thing that I would do is I would have this version of Leo to talk to the elders and say, I don't understand why white lighters and witches can't be together. So then I would kind of flesh that out. Whatever the reason may be, I would flesh it out, have that be what we focus on, and have him say, this doesn't make sense. Then you can kind of start their romance in a way where they're kind of defying the odds, they're kind of going against the grain. But then as time goes on, they start to change people's minds and say, okay, white lighters and witches can work together. I will say that another thing about Leo that I probably would have kept is him being in the army. Because even though I feel like they don't necessarily use that to its full potential, I do think that that is an important part of Leo's story. And it's weird because I don't feel like I said like they really do it justice, but I feel like it's an important part of him. So I would have Mark be in the army, and I would Leo. I would still keep Leo in the army. Yeah, I'm so sorry. But I would still keep Leo in the army. But I think that what I would do is have him have had like army brothers, things like that, like people he really genuinely cared about, that he wanted to see how they were doing, but he can't. He can't go back to that old life. I also would not have him be from San Francisco. I would have him be from like a completely different part of the country. I don't know where, but I would have him be from a completely different part of the country. Maybe somewhere that kind of could affect his character. You know, maybe he's more family centered, maybe whatever, and it makes him sad that he can't have that family now. Maybe something like that. But I definitely would have him have more connection and have him be so proud to have served his country. And then something like Saving Private Leo could have happened in season maybe 1 or 2 verses in season 4. I would have had him do something like go on a little journey. If you've ever seen the Charmed reboot, I think they did, although they put Harry too much at the forefront. I do think that they did good by having him go to kind of like see what happened in his former life after he died. So I would do something like that with Leo in this universe where I would have him kind of hunt down who he was. But here's another part of the story that I think I would do. I think I would have it to where they've moved on. And like not because they want to. Like he perceives them as having moved on, right? So in his mind, they're just living their life. Meanwhile, like everyone is just trying to like make do with what they have essentially, and they're just kind of trying to be okay with the fact that Leo's not here, but they're really not. And I think that would kind of add to his story of like this inner turmoil and this inner conflict of, wait, I don't mean as much to these people as I thought that I did, when in reality they're really really hurting and they really miss him. And I think that that could serve as sort of a way to walk into that white lighter empathy. Like maybe he starts to get a little bit almost obsessed with them, and so like he's constantly sort of watching them, you know, he's orbiting in every now and again, and he starts to see their real pain, and that helps him to understand that as a white lighter, I am supposed to heal and guide people who are going through pain like this. And then what Leo did for Lillian by coming to her in a dream and saying like, "Oh, you'll find love again." We could have him do something like that here. So where his loved ones, I would not give him a wife. I will say that I would not give Leo a wife, because I just feel like that is, while it's while it's a cute storyline, I don't feel like it's entirely necessary. And I feel like the way that the original story plays out is that Leo just tells Piper that was a whole different lifetime ago. I just didn't tell you about it because I didn't want you to get hurt. You know, and it just is weird. It feels like he's brushing that off because he doesn't want to scare Piper away almost. I don't know. It's very strange to me. But anyway, I think that with me not giving him a wife, but being able to go to his loved ones, his friends, his family, that gives him this closure where he can say, okay, I'm ready to move into this next phase of existence. Now I can be a white lighter. And it also gives him the knowledge that he has done something for his family, and it gives him that boost to be able to heal and protect and let him know that he truly does have the words to give people. He truly does have that nurturing spirit. This is why they made him a white lighter. So I think that that little tweak of letting us see him do something like that would endear him to us. Endear us to him? I don't know. Somebody would be endeared to somebody. My God, today. This is going to be quite, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think that this is going to be a video series. I think that we need to rewrite Leo in chunks because I have a lot. That was like literally the surface. That was us scratching the surface. And I don't want to put out like 30-minute videos like that because I just So I think that what we're going to do is we are going to sort of break it up into pieces. I still like the idea of doing it in like eras, but since this was a lot more of like establishing his backstory and introduction, I think that we're going to focus on that here. And then in the next video, we're going to focus on his relationship with Piper, and then sort of going into Piper becoming a business owner, Piper starting to grow as a person, and then finally, well, not finally, but then in that piece of the video, we'll start talking about him with Prue, because I think that that's another thing I would do is kind of change his relationship with Prue. And I'm excited. I'm excited because let me just for a quick little moment. Leo is not one of my favorite characters. And I think that it's because his writing was handled so haphazardly. And sometimes Leo comes off as gaslighty. Sometimes Leo comes off as okay, everybody. So I think that with that, we're going to go ahead, wrap on up for today. I know that that seemed very short, but there is a lot. And if I just kept talking, then it would all kind of get muddled and confuddled and whatever else. So I'm just going to see y'all next time for part 2, where we're going to talk about his relationship with Piper. And we're just going to take it from there. How many parts are there going to be in this series? I'm not 100% sure, but I am going to hopefully give y'all some stuff that you can grasp onto. Let me take a quick moment to shout out the Patreon and just say thank you to everyone on the Warren Line tier, the Manor tier, and the Spot tier that support me not only financially but emotionally as well. You always show up and you always show out for me. So I thank you, thank you, thank you for being here for me. And if you or someone you know would like to join the Warren Line tier, please head on over to the Power of G on Patreon so you can get your spot today. We're going to be having a Black Friday sale next week where you can get 50% off of your first month subscription. So I think that's a great value. Head on over. Also, in the month of December, we're going to be having a lot of Christmas events. We're going to be having some Christmas watch parties. We're going to have a trivia night. So head on over to the Power of G now so you can be a part of the festivities. But also, we have a Power of G blanket, and it is so soft and so comfortable. And if you'd like to get this blanket or a mug or a beanie or a hoodie or anything like that for maybe someone special this Christmas, then head on over to shop.powerofgcommunity.com so you can get all the merch. And if you head on over there now, you can get 10% off of your order of $50 or more. I know, right? Such a good deal. And also head on over to our website, powerofgcommunity.com, so you can be updated on all of our events coming up. But all right, y'all, I am going to go ahead and end this video here, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.
We got the power. We got the power.